Hi, my name is Frankie. Thank you for listening to my mom. I never listen.
Man, I've been waiting for an opportunity to do this. You know, Rebecca and I, we see each other at meetings or when it's all basketball related, but I know the philanthropic side of Rebecca. I know the friendly side. I know the humor side. I also respect the celebrity of it. So thank you for your time, Rebecca.
No, my pleasure. It's funny, Deb, because like people just assume that we get to see each other all the time because we both kind of do the same thing, but they don't realize that like analysts generally don't work with each other. So yeah, it's
Right.
right. We get to see each other at functions or at meetings, but it's not like we get to ever work together. So we'll have to work on that at some point. Let's get a 3-person booth going.
You know what? Or that, or let's just forget the play-by-play and you and I just do it. I mean, I've
Yeah,
done games like that before where we don't even need those play-by-play guys. You and I can handle it. We're going to work on that one for sure.
that's true. That's true.
Well, before we got started, we were talking about, so many things we have in common as moms. I mean, I have 3 boys, you have 4 kids. I think you and I are unique in that we have so many kids and do what we do. I don't think there's anyone else that gets to do what we do. Not, I always look at it as get to, not have to. So, what's your like day with your 4 kids, getting them up, getting them ready for school? Who do you drop off? Who gets picked up? How do what's your calendar in the kitchen look like?
Oh, it's busy. It's busy. It's gotten a little bit easier because now my youngest is 10. So when I had a little one that was home more than in school, any mom knows that that's a real challenge. But right now we have 4 kids and we have 2 in high school. So my husband drives them in the morning because my oldest is a junior, just turned 16, but in Connecticut. She has her permit, but she doesn't have her driver's license yet. And even when she gets her driver's license, she can't drive her sister until she's had her license, I think, for a year. So it doesn't really help us in terms of our carpool. My husband takes care of the high school run. I take care of our younger 2 are in 5th and 7th grade, but they're in the same school. So I do that. And then, as you know, Deb, then you have those hours that they're at school. It's like 9 to 3, and you have to jam
Yep.
everything into those hours, whether it's your game prep or your bill paying or your grocery store runs or doing laundry. Halftime of this game, pause, go put the clothes from the washer to the dryer. So it's a lot to juggle, but you wouldn't change any of it, right?
No, we wouldn't change any of it. I'm even doing laundry during the halftime of games now because I'm home and I can get up and go throw something in the dryer after I put it in before the game started. The drive-through line. The funniest things that have happened to you or things that you have done while you're waiting to pick your kid up in the pickup line.
Well, I want to hear yours because I'm usually only waiting like 15 or 20 minutes. It's not ridiculously long. Oftentimes there's getting phone calls out of the way, or you and I were talking before you pressed record about, you have probably downloaded a game to your iPad or your phone or whatever and trying to cram some of that in. So nothing too crazy. More for me because I only have about 20 minutes waiting that I do. How about you?
Well, when I was waiting on my son Frankie in high school, and it would be a 45-minute to an hour wait, and if you didn't time it right, I didn't want him standing in front of the school for 30 minutes if I was way in the back of the line. So I had a whole plan, like when I would leave the house and what I would take with me. Um, Sometimes I took Windex and washed the windows of my car. Sometimes I watched film. Couple times I hit happy hour in the spring and maybe fell asleep. I had a couple cars beaten. I had one time somebody knocked on the window, "Hey, wake up!" And I was like embarrassed, but it was funny because hey, I mean, I had one margarita at lunch and it put me out. So I shouldn't be telling that, but it's the truth. So that's one of the funny things that happened to me. Somebody knocking on some mom knocking on the window. Hey, wake
So
up!
wait, so you're the mom who's passed out at pickup from the one margarita lunch.
That has happened before. Yes. I'm not afraid to admit it. I don't mind admitting it. I mean, come on, we know like we can't take ourselves too seriously, right? I mean, I always say if people knew what our real lives were like as moms and what we do. And I always say this too, Rebecca. I don't know how you feel about it, but I don't remember the last time I've ever had a day off.
Yeah. Yep. It's funny because that you say that right now, because on Tuesday, um, we had a big snowstorm up here this week, and I worked on Monday night, and on Tuesday, this is our first week this year where I wasn't doing a game on Thursday, and I said to my husband, I said, "This is a day off. I'm going to take a day off. The kids are home from school. It's a snow day. So a day off, of course, means doing stuff around the house. But I'm like, I am not going to do anything for women's college basketball." And it was my first time since, early December, whenever the season started. He's just looking at me like I was crazy. But I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to let myself do anything basketball related. And it's just so rare during the college season that you get those days. The spring comes and you get some, or the summer and the fall, whatever. But during the college basketball season, it's a little bit nutty.
Yeah, it is. Like people ask me all the time because I get the chance to work on the men's side too. So the rules are different. There's different leagues you got to keep up. There's so much stuff like to compartmentalize what you do and how you do it. Like how do you keep it all straight? Because like you and I both get to cover the whole landscape, not just a particular league. Or I've got Pac-12 games coming up. You've had Pac-12 games. I'm not afraid to tell you that, while I'm driving, I will be watching film and I will be listening to you call the Arizona-Oregon game because I do have them on Monday night. So, you get a lot of stuff done in the car because we're always on the move. But, how do you manage with everything that you have to keep up with? How do you go about it? Like, I want to learn from you. Like, what do you do to keep it all organized?
I don't think you're going to be learning from me. I think that the biggest thing for me is that I only do women's. I only do women's college basketball. I only do the Wnba. And one of the reasons for that is when, as when you're in studio or when you're doing multiple leagues, it's hard to keep up with all of women's college basketball. And so I couldn't do men's stuff on top of that. It's just not something I can do because I'm also, I guess 2 of my kids now, I'm coaching their basketball teams. That's really important for me. That's a priority for me. Now that in Connecticut, we're finally allowed this week, they can start playing games. All we've been able to do up to this point are these small group skill sessions, but that's important for me. So I know, like when we were talking earlier about getting work done, most of my work has to be done by 3, pick up the kids. Then I'm going to have practices for them. And then maybe later on in the evening, I'll be able to watch some more women's stuff. There's just no way I could add men's to that. And I give credit to you and Doris for all those years because there's so much more that's thrown on you that you have to be following when you're doing those multiple sports. And I like to think that my multiple sports are 5th grade youth girls basketball and 7th grade youth boys basketball. That's the world that's keeping me pretty busy right now too.
I love it. I coached the 8th grade boys when my youngest son Patrick was playing, and I asked him, are you sure you want me to do this? Like, is it okay with you? I had to make sure that he was good with it because I didn't want to put him in a bad spot or. And I'm not that parent. I can't imagine that you are either. I want to be the mom more than I want to be the coach sometimes. But because of what we do, when we go into the gym, sometimes we do have the ability to share our knowledge and our experience. So, how are your kids with you and how do you manage that balance between being the coach and then that tough love that comes with it and then teaching? I know they're young and you're probably spending a lot of time on fundamentals, but listen, they got to know how to pivot, right? I mean,
we work on pivots every day with the 5th grade group. Yeah. Well, it's funny because out of my 4 kids, I've coached all of them at the youth level. My older 2 in high school, they're out of my hands now. But there a couple of them in particular, I have had to say to one of the assistants, and I have been lucky that I've had other parents who I've been with for a number of years. I'll say, can you tell this one this? Because I have 2 in particular that don't want to hear from me during practice in that way. They don't want to be coached by me. They're totally coachable from other people. And so I've kind of learned that along the way. Okay, I can't correct them because they have no interest in what mom has to say about this. And so I've had other people be able to do it. And what was interesting last year when we went when everybody was going to virtual learning, is that dynamic was working there as well. Like one of my kids in particular, who doesn't like to be coached by me, also didn't love to be taught by me. And so it's like, man, like she's fine in school, fine with their teacher. And it's just those interesting personalities. But I've learned that, like a couple of my kids, I could coach no problem. I could tell them, you need to do this, you need to do that. But then there were two, I had to rely on the other person. And because I did not want to strain our mom-son or mom-daughter relationship. And I say to my younger two, the ones I'm coaching now frequently, like, are you having fun? Are you enjoying this? Like, because that's the most important. My oldest daughter, who's a junior in high school, she played all the way up through her freshman year, played basketball, and then decided, I don't like basketball anymore, Mom, and still plays other sports. And I was like, oh, like, I didn't know there was a world where a kid didn't like basketball. Like, how could you not like basketball? So she doesn't play anymore. So it's important for me to constantly ask the younger ones, do you like it? Are you having fun? Because I just want them to have a good experience.
I feel the same way. I'm my youngest is in college right now. He's a freshman point guard, and I watched the first game that he played in. And when he called me, I asked him to call me after the game, and then, they lost. He didn't want to call me. He went in the gym when they got back off the bus, and he stayed in the gym an extra 2 hours till 1 o'clock in the morning shooting. The security guard came and ran him out. And the next day I talked to him, he asked me what I thought, and I said, you know what, Patrick, I just want to be your mom. I just want to make sure you're enjoying your experience, you're a good teammate. If you play, don't play, I just want you to have good experience. He's like, Mom, come on. I know you got something to say about the game. Like, well, if you really want to know, I did write 10 things down. So, but when he was in 8th grade, Rebecca and I was coaching them, I kicked him out of the gym. I threw him out of practice because he gave me some bad body language. And I wanted the rest of the boys to know that, look, I'm not going to say this 3 times. I'm going to say it once or twice. We better get it. Bad body language, you're out. And he looked at me. He was shocked. He couldn't believe it because I didn't raise my voice or anything. I just was like, I don't like your attitude. You're going out. And he was like,
did he say, can you still bring me home after practice though?
Yeah. He eventually came back in and he apologized, made him apologize to his teammates. But anyway, so I want to ask you this. You guys have the ability to play 3-on-3 in the driveway. Like, are you going out there, you on one, Steve on another, and then how do you split them up?
Oh gosh, because our littlest is only 10, 3-on-3 isn't going to work. We do a fair amount of, like, we might do 2-on-1, or with the little one with an adult going against her brother, or like a 3-on-2. Especially now that my oldest one has opted out, she's retired. She's fully in retirement. But it's funny because my kids are super competitive with one another, and it doesn't end well. Like they one of them will start talking trash, or they throw the ball, or they storm off. So we've learned that within our family, like my husband and I have never once ever, and he's a good basketball player, we've never once played 1-on-1. We've shot around together, but like, what good could that do for our relationship at any point, then or now, like 16, 17 years in? Why would we do that? So with our kids, like, they'll shoot around, they'll do whatever, but games always end badly.
Yeah, same at my house. Every game ended in a controversy. And then when I figured out that it was best to have it end in a controversy so no one won and no one lost, they would argue about that, that was the best way to end the game. So I'd, step on the line, hit a shot, game over. They're like, you're on the line. I'm like, no, basket's good. You're on the line, And so I'm like, game over. So we would go in the house and one would be mad, and my youngest Patrick always ended up stomping off, mad. And Frankie pushed him around. Like, that's how come Patrick's so tough, because Frankie just fouled him the whole time. And we just let it happen. We just let it happen. Okay, so you mentioned, Steve, the Ball and Chain podcast. I'm so glad you're bringing it back. You guys are hilarious. I mean, I don't think I could do that with my husband and make it fun and funny. I mean, that is awesome. So what do you got up next on the Ball and Chain podcast? What do you got? Because I need to tell you this. The Ball and Chain is a common phrase at our house. When we got married, we had this huge golf tournament, and we called it the Ball and Chain Open. And I love the name of yours. I love the podcast.
Oh, well, thank you. What's up next? We have no idea. We just know that we come to the basement on Tuesdays. We sit down, we look at each other and say, "Do you have anything to say?" And we look at our notes folder on our phone and see what's in there. But we've been doing it for a couple of years now, and surprisingly, we always have something to talk about. And it just started because we would, each be tweeting maybe something that happened with one of our kids or with one another. Sometimes I'd be on the road and I'd see a tweet by him and be like, "Oh, I didn't know that happened at home." And so it was just kind of an extension of that. And, we talk about being parents, about being spouses, about having these little people running around. And even though we both are immersed in sports for our jobs, we don't really talk a lot about sports other than the youth sports world that we're in right now. But it's good. It's probably the one time a week where we sit together for an hour and talk without the kids being there. "Mom, Dad, can we have this? Can we get that? Can we have a snack?" So it's been good for us in that way, and we've really enjoyed it.
Rebecca, I knew a long time ago that you and I had a lot in common and we were connected when I saw you years ago tweet a picture of the toilet paper roll empty on the holder with another roll sitting on top of it. And I went, "Dang, Rebecca, that is so good. That is exactly what it's like living with all men."
Yeah, yeah.
They can't even put the toilet paper roll back on the roll. On the roller.
It's remarkable. Or like you pull something out of the fridge, you're like, "Really? Someone put the pint container back in with one strawberry?" Or, whatever it is. Like sometimes I'm just looking at my husband like, what is going on in that brain? Like, how do really bright men function? Sometimes I wonder. But I think a lot of us have that in common when we have men in the house.
I don't even want to say that it's so anal, but like, I load the dishwasher one way, he does it a different. I'm like, "Aren't you going to do it my way?" I turn the blinds one way, he turns it another. I mean, like, all these years, for 28 plus years we've been living together, like, can't we do something that's similar? Everything's different. It's funny.
Let me ask you this, because this was a debate on that we had on our podcast recently. And I have to say, everyone is on Steve's side. No one has agreed with me so far, but I'm still holding strong to my principles. All right. We make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in the morning for our kids to bring to lunch. They don't like the crusts, so they're cut off. I cut the crusts off the bread before I put the P&J on, because why waste the P&J that you're then going to cut off and throw away? Steve and everybody else makes the sandwich, fully lathers with P&J, and then cuts the crusts off. Why would you do it that way? But it seems like everyone besides me does it that way. So Deb, what's the way that you do your P&J?
I'm so sorry, Rebecca. I have been doing peanut butter and jelly for 100 years, and I have to agree with Steve. I mean, and I only had one that wanted the crust off, and I put it on there, but I color inside the line. So I'm inside the line, so I'm not wasting any peanut butter and jelly.
Let's see that. How much extra time does it take to do that? All right. I'm still on an island, but I'm on the peanut butter and jelly island by myself here.
I'm going to videotape me timing myself doing that, seeing what takes longer. Okay, and I'll send it to you. What is it easier to do it your way or Steve's way? I think it's a really good question.
And at least try it my way, because I have a feeling this is one of those things that you just never thought about, and then when you do it, you'll be like, "Oh, of course, this makes sense."
That's hilarious. Okay,
these are the insightful things that people come to our podcast for, Deb.
I love it. I think it's great. Your grocery shopping. I mean, do you do the grocery shopping? Does Steve do it? Do you guys do Instacart? I mean, how do you handle all that? Because I mean, I can't imagine that you can just go to the grocery store and not have people stop you unless they're so used to seeing you in your community.
Oh, Steve does not do grocery shopping. He can do like, we're out of bread, or we're out of milk, but he can't do like vegetables or something. I mean, I'm sure he could, but he doesn't. So I do the grocery shopping. And that was an interesting challenge, because like the Northeast got hit really, really hard with COVID early on. And so, we didn't have stay-at-home orders, but it was suggested that we stay home. So that was the first time I'm like, all right, I'm going to only go to the grocery store once a week. So I had to really plan out my whole menu and whatever. So anyway, I know all the people who work at my local Stop and Shop, or there's another local market. I know all those guys. People leave me alone. Like, they'll stop me during basketball season and they'll want to talk about UConn, because up here everybody's a UConn fan.
Sure.
but but like no, like I enjoy like walking through the aisles and people like even Holly Rowe has said to me, "How do you not do delivery service?" I'm like, "Cause I don't trust someone else to choose my avocado. Like I need to choose my
I'm
avocado."
the same way. I don't
So
do it in the car. I go. I go to the
right,
store. I'd rather do. I'm the same way. I don't want somebody delivering milk to my house. I don't know how long they've had it. In
right,
their car.
right, exactly. So anyway, like I actually enjoy doing the grocery shopping, but it was interesting because now I've stayed into my like Monday's my grocery shopping day. I go there once a week, try to have everything planned out because I used to be there like way too many times a week just from lack of planning. Like, oh no, we've got nothing for dinner tonight. And I think there's plenty of moms who can relate to that.
We totally. I mean, I can't get it all in one week like you. And my husband does go. He will go to the grocery store, and he does a pretty
Does
good
he
job.
cook
Except for when
too?
he goes, he'll cook some. Like, when we have games at night or on the air, I'm out. Like they're on their own. And I when they were younger, and we're traveling so much, we're gone, and when we come home, the last thing I really want to do is cook, but I would because I knew they were eating chicken nuggets and hot dogs the rest of the time. So, and I'm not going to pretend to be a big cook, but at least I could throw something on the grill. And my husband does a good job. He's pretty good at. I don't know if they get the vegetables, but they're pretty good at everything.
But that's the hard part because they take up all the easy dinners. Because even if I'm gone
Yeah.
just one night, like maybe there's one night I'd like to just make burgers, or I would like to just make a frozen pizza, or I would like to do the chicken nuggets. But no, like they've done all of that, or they've done the breakfast for dinner. So like when it's your turn, you feel this pressure to like I got some kind of vegetable on the plate tonight. I've got to like have actually cooked something instead of just like pulled it out of a box and heated it because dad's taking
100%
care
true.
of it.
That's one thing. That is 100% true. It's the pressure that you feel because that's where the guilt comes from, right? I've been gone. Now I'm home. I'm going to be home one night. Shoot, I got to cook. What do we have? There's nothing in the refrigerator. I will say this: when the kids were young, like and they were really young, and I would stock the house so that if Frank never wanted to leave with the kids, so like diapers, form, whatever it was, food, he could be bunkered in if he needed to and not have to go anywhere. And I felt that always made me feel like that's one less thing. He's got to put two kids in the car seat and go somewhere. Oh my God, I don't want him to have to do that.
Like I don't know if it's something that some of us are just born with, but I would be the same way. Like I had to make sure all the laundry was done. I didn't want the kids to be looking for something for their school uniform and it wasn't clean, or yes, they have the food they need. They have whatever. Like our husbands are capable of going to the store. Why do we feel that pressure? And in some ways I still do. Like, I mean, I haven't flown in a really long time. Fortunate for me that I live and can just drive to Brickell when they need me. But like, anytime it was like, oh, I've got to make sure that they don't need to leave the house. Like, what?
100%, 100%. It still feels like that, even though I've got two of mine in college and one still around that already graduated. But it still feels the same way. I don't think that ever leaves. That feeling. It's a good feeling in some way. Sometimes it can be overwhelming and stressful, but that's why we never have a day off because we take care of it. Right.
You mentioned that you're going to be calling the Oregon Arizona game. Are you flying out to Oregon for that? Or are you doing that from home?
Yeah, we're doing that from home. So actually on Sunday, I have Notre Dame at Louisville on Sunday, and then Arizona, Oregon on Monday.
And how have you found it to be? Because I've called remotely, but I don't have a kid at home. So how is it for you to be working from home when you do have other people in the house? And I guess they're old enough that they know not to knock on the door when you have your sign up. But like, what's that been like for you?
Well, I wish you did have a kid at home, Rebecca, so you wouldn't have to wear shoes, or to wear sweats, because that's probably most of what I'm doing. From the summer, all the Wnba games that we got to do from home, I did 30 plus games there. That was awesome. And then they're really good. They stay away. They don't. I was in one part of my house for the summer. I'm in a different part of my house for the college season because I was going to be in this part longer. We were going to be there longer, so I didn't want to occupy this part of the house to take away from the guys. But it is. I love it. I'm starting to really like it. There's a lot of things I miss about it, but I really do enjoy it. And I think there's some hybrid out there for all of us that this is probably the way we're going to do it. That, some games, like, they're going to be blowouts or non-conference games that, we're going to spend all this money to watch somebody beat someone by 30 points. I don't think we'll do that as much. But for conference play and for bigger games, we know the value of the smell, the sight, the sound, all that on game day. I miss this part of it. For 33 years, we've been doing it a certain way. And now, for me, I'm asked to change this way, which I'm happy to do it. But I've gotten used to it. And I think it's probably something we'll have. I wish you did have a home kit so that you could call games from home. I think you would enjoy it.
It's funny, like, because there's just not enough kits. And so anybody who lives in Connecticut, if you have a game, I've done one from a kit, but I drive to Bristol and use their kit. And what was interesting to me about the whole thing is the difference that a crowd makes or doesn't make. Like at the very beginning of the year, I got to do a game on site at the Mohegan. It was Louisville and DePaul, but there was no fans there. And my overwhelming feeling at the end of that game, as I was walking off in this empty arena, was, I don't think we missed anything during the WNBA by not being in Orlando. Like without the crowd there and the building and the energy and like the feeling of from the fans, and it's like pulsing and the energy. Without that there, calling that game live, I was like, I don't feel like I did any better job than I would have if I had been home. It's going to be different when we get these arenas back. And we, in South Carolina has there however many thousands of people there. Of course, it's going to feel different. But I agree with you. I think there's going to be a lot more times where we are going to be calling from somewhere that's not the arena.
I have been on some sites this year. There was a men's game at LSU. Then, of course, the Tara Vanderveer game out in Stockton, and then another game. But most of the games, and when you are there, you can sense a difference. Like, but I think you and I, because we're so intrinsically passionate about the game, and that my focus when the game starts, the ambiance of it is something I definitely miss, and especially when our game has grown so much that we do miss those crowds. And the best part is those fans miss going to the games just as much as we miss being there too. So I think that's going to have some sort of domino effect later on, where I think people are going to bring more people with them, and that's going to have a ripple effect across the game, which, we know how valuable our product is and how good the game has become and how much it's grown. And speaking of that, the 25th anniversary of the WNBA, and I know that's special for you. I know you feel personally invested so much, not just because you were a player and because you broadcast, but because you were there from the very beginning. What are your emotions about 25 years, Rebecca?
I mean, I think it's just like, wow, it's been a really long time. Like, that's a really long time. And I know compared to Major League Baseball or even the NBA, it's a much shorter amount of time. But for women's professional league, that's incredible. And, every year I'm just proud of the women when I'm watching them on the floor, never more than this past summer. When they made their presence felt in a much bigger and more important way. The way they handled themselves in terms of their social justice message, how they were consistent with it throughout the course of the season, never let themselves get distracted by basketball, but also by still giving us this amazing product. The women in the WNBA continue to be leaders, and it just makes me proud, and I felt that way when I was a player, although with the other women in the league, but the climate was different then socially. And so women didn't feel as comfortable making their voices heard in those days. To see how far the league has come, not only with the product on the court, I mean, it's amazing. For people who pay attention, they realize if you're watching WNBA playoffs, it's funny because a couple of years ago, came home from, it was when Connecticut and Washington were playing in the WNBA finals, phenomenal 5-game series. The quality of play was off the charts. Like the following week, I'm watching an NBA preseason game and I'm like, this is terrible. Or like an early season men's college basketball game. Like, this is terrible. Of course it was. I just came from watching the finals, the best basketball in the world in September. Everything else is going to be bad at the beginning of its season. And so anyway, like watching the level of play on the court has been great. And then watching how the league has grown, how these women over the course of time have found their voices and are using it for good every single day. That part just like, I'm like, I was there when this league was a baby, and now it's 25, and it's it's making mama proud.
No, you're right. I mean, we all know a lot of people that didn't get a chance to use their voice back in the early part of the league, and probably felt very strongly about the same issues that we're dealing with today. And it is, our friend Pepper Pursley, she always comes to mind when I start thinking about this little girl, 9 years old, and she has become a little star, and everybody knows who she is because she has invested in following the game, and the players just love her. She lights up the room, and she's that little girl that's watching when nobody else is watching, or paying attention. That's what we're reaching out to. It is gratifying.
It was my daughter was a freshman in high school, came home last week, and she said to me, she's like, Mom, I don't remember which teacher. My teacher, mentioned, there's no professional sports in Connecticut. And I said, well, did you say something? And she's like, no, but like how out of touch is that teacher? Doesn't realize the Connecticut Sun's here, that kind of feel. Or even the other night, I was in the studio and she was texting me and saying, it's February 1st. She's like, do all free agents have to sign by the end of today? I'm like, no, it's just started. Like, today's the first day. I'm like, my kid's into WNBA free agency. And it was because she has a group of friends at school who also were. So they were asking all these questions about players and where they're going to go. I'm like, how cool is this? Like,
So
what world are we in that this is part of a normal 14-year-old's life? It was really fun.
It's so great. I mean, when my son Patrick will tell me that, he follows Elena Deladon and Tamika Catchings when I was doing all the Fever games. Tamika embraced my boys. I mean, they love her, right? They think she's the best. Of course, Elena, we have a special connection with Elena because of my son Frankie and Lizzie and that they just adore those two women and they talk about her. My son Patrick will see something and he'll say something to me about, hey, something that happened. And I'm like, oh, thanks for telling me. I didn't know that was going on. And it's just really cool that they're interested in it. And, I hear, you hear little things like guys say stuff once in a while. They do talk about it. They just don't always think it's so cool to talk about it. But now it's becoming cooler. Like, the orange hoodie and the NBA guys. And, they don't, I always felt like we didn't need them to validate us. We already know how good the product is. But what those guys do is they make it cool. And as long as it's socially acceptable to be cool, that's how we turn the corner.
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree with you. They made it okay for everybody else to wear the WNBA orange hoodie or to tune into the game because Kobe's doing it, LeBron's doing it, like Kyrie's doing it. So that's all they needed to hear.
So I've got one more thing for you, and then I'll let you go, and I appreciate your time. I hope you'll come back sometime. Maybe when we get closer to the postseason, when we start breaking down the tournament, maybe you
got it.
Come help us. I want to know about the Super Bowl, Tom Brady, yay or nay on Tom Brady, and do you have a special story about any interaction you've had with Tom Brady? Because I'm assuming you've had some conversation with him or you've had a chance to meet him.
No, I have never met Tom Brady. And
he's never met you. He's never met you is what it means.
I've met Robert Kraft, never met Tom Brady. So my sister, her husband is a huge Patriots fan, has season tickets to the Patriots. They are like a Patriots household. Loved Tom Brady. I'm not sure they're feeling on him after he left. I think they're still Tom Brady people. And my husband's from Minnesota, so he's a Vikings fan. And my son followed my dad, and he's a Giants fan. So the people who pay attention to football in my house are more my kids. They are not Tom Brady fans. I don't. If Tom Brady's playing, they're rooting for the other team. So, but nothing personal. I really don't care who wins the Super Bowl. I'll be sitting there like everybody else, enjoying the commercials, watching the action, having a snack or two. I think because we're usually home by then. We got women's college basketball games all morning, but I'm pretty sure
in the studio.
I'm home for kickoff. I'll be home for kickoff. I think it's funny because as you and I know, Deb, like the conference championship games that Sunday and Super Bowl Sunday, we tend to have a lot of women's basketball games on early in the day. I don't know how that happens, but anyway, we'll be home for kickoff, and my kids will be rooting pretty strongly against Tom Brady.
We will be rooting for Patrick Mahomes. I know one of my guys will have a football jersey on that has Mahomes on it. What's going to be your big Super Bowl snack? You're going to come back from the studio. It's going to be freezing. You're going to walk into your house. Steve's going to have some huge spread ready for you.
There will not be a huge spread ready for me. But I don't know what we'll have. What snack that is kind of like my little guilty pleasure? Cheese-filled combos crackers, not the pretzels, not the pretzels. And it's hard to find the crackers ever since COVID. I don't know why. But you throw, like, if there's a little bag of cheese-filled combo crackers out there, I'll be snacking on those. How
Yeah,
about
it'll
you?
be
Are
all
you
like,
going to have a big spread ready for your boys and
well,
your
yeah,
husband?
it will be like bar food at my house. So there'll be wings and little hot cocktail hot dogs, and that's what we'll probably have. Probably won't be very healthy, but it'll be fun, and we'll enjoy it.
My son will request the like sweet and sour mini meatballs in the crock pot. We'll have those too.
That sounds like a good comfort food Super Bowl Patrick Mahomes winning recipe.
Do me a favor, and right at kickoff, have a margarita, but see if you can make it through the end of the Super Bowl without taking a nap.
I'll have something. I don't know if it'll be that, but maybe for you, that's what I'll dial up. Yeah.
Take a pictures, and I'll take a picture and send it to you and say cheers.
Perfect. That sounds like a plan. I love it. Rebecca, thank you. Such a joy to have you. It's so great, and I appreciate everything you do. I want to mention just one more thing, because I want to thank you so much for your support of my fundraiser in May. I will be doing it again for the third year, shooting free throws for 24 hours. And I hope you'll come on the live stream with us. You've been a huge supporter, and I can't thank you enough, because that money directly affects student Special Olympic athletes. It goes right to their programming and their training. So thank you for that. You're a kind soul.
You're doing all the work. It's the least we can do, right? Is to support somebody who's out there shooting free throws for 24 hours. So I'm looking forward to your reports from it. It's going to be in May?
Yeah, May 15 and 16. I'll do it again. I'm going to do
Awesome.
it from my driveway. I have already started my training. I haven't started the nutrition part of it. Maybe after that margarita, I'll think about it.
I was going to say, you might want to alter it a little bit, that you do you shoot for 24 hours, and each hour maybe you throw in a little something else to make it a little interesting too.
You know what? If you promise me you will help me in the wee hours of the morning, I'll do a little something to make it interesting. How about 3 a.m., 5 a.m.?
Even more interesting is what I meant. More interesting. Let's see how your free throw percentage goes throughout the course of the night.
I can't even believe the distractions and the things that are taking place. I've got to do a better job of showing all that's going on while the 24 hours is happening, because it's really entertaining. It's fun. But thank you so much, Rebecca. You're the best, and I really appreciate your friendship. I love being on your team at ESPN covering college women's basketball and the WNBA.
Me too, Deb. Thanks so much.